fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Commander Class Beast Wars Universe MAGMATRON. No, I said MAGMATRON. Yes. Anyway, this is Commander Class MAGMATRON from Transformers Legacy United. Artwork on the front of the box here looks fantastic. Of course, we have MAGMATRON very prominent here on the front. And you see just the tiniest little bit of one of the horns from Big Convoy. So maybe he's down the line. Maybe that's a tease. Or maybe it's just because this guy is from Beast Wars Neo. I don't know. But either way, front of the box looks absolutely fantastic. It shows you it's 3-in-1. You have a Tyrannosaurus, a Pterodon, or pterodactyl, however you want to go look at that, and a plesiosaurus, all coming together to make this large robot. Up top here, we have a ship. I'm assuming this is one of the ships from Beast Wars Neo, but I don't know that 100%. And then you have the Legacy United logo here on the top. Nothing really going on down here on the bottom. Over here on the side, you don't really have half of the mural. You kind of have like the center chunk of the mural, since there's not going to be another Commander class box for Legacy United to do the split screen, so they kind of just put as much of it on here as they possibly could. And then over here on this side, you have a really cool shot of the 3 dinosaurs. I think that looks really neat. And then spinning it around here to the back, again, we see the 3 dinosaurs and the combined robot mode. Now, as far as I know, there is also a combined beast mode, and I'll try to figure that out, but it is not on the packaging at all, which I think is interesting. So, gonna go ahead and get this guy out of the box, and we'll take a closer look. So here is MAGMATRON. Stop it. Here's MAGMATRON out of the packaging. He looks pretty good, honestly. Now, he comes packaged mostly in robot mode. You do have to do a little bit of tweaking. And the one thing, the legs are kind of turned to the side, so you have to kind of straighten them out. It does not talk at all about these pieces here on the back. There's like this back of his calf muscle with some pistons here that connects into a piece that pegs into the back of like right above the ankle. And these are all kind of tucked in or all over the place when you get it out of the packaging. And the directions don't show you that you're supposed to connect these. They do have a section that says like taking it out of the box, you know, straighten the feet, do this. Here's how to connect this, because you have to kind of take the tail of the plesiosaurus and bring that in, and it pegs onto a shoulder peg so that the head stands or sits there, situates, whatever we want to say. So there is like a little bit of, you know, straightening it out and connecting things that you have to do out of the packaging. But I did want to mention the stuff here on the back of the calf, because it does not mention that for whatever reason. Also, you have to flip the heels out all the way. But yeah, he's kind of cool. I mean, he feels pretty solid, which is good when you have a bunch of things connecting together. I always wanted to, you know, be solid and stay together pretty well. And I have to say, he's not falling apart anytime soon, which is good. He has this giant shield here, as you can see, connected to the arm. I'm going to go ahead and remove this now that we've seen it, just so that we can get a little bit better look at his articulation. But this is kind of like the whole bottom half of the plesiosaurus. Or actually, I think the directions call it Seasaurus. I think it's Seasaurus, Landsaurus, or I'm sorry, Seasaurus, Landsaurus, and Skysaurus. I don't know if that's a Beast Wars Neo thing or if Hasbro just decided to call it that. Full disclosure, I have never seen Beast Wars Neo. It is on my list, but I have not had a chance to check it out just yet. So I don't know much about this character. I know he's kind of the big villain for the Destrons. I know, you know, Big Convoy is from that season, but I don't know a ton in terms of, you know, how this guy operates. Now, again, robot mode here looks pretty good. You have this sword piece here that you can take off, and you have this sword piece here that actually goes into the tail of the Tyrannosaurus. It's a very soft plastic. You can see here it's kind of rubbery. It bends a lot. I believe it's done in this translucent plastic, which is, again, surprising because translucent plastic is very seldomly this rubbery, but better than being super brittle, I guess. They've painted it pretty nicely here. I think this gunmetal gray works well. Technically, if you wanted him to just hold the sword, you could. Nothing to stop you there. It is meant to peg into this giant piece here. And this really reminds me of the 2 weapons that Gigatron had in Car Robots. Like, it's just missing the jewel on the front. But that's what that definitely reminds me of. And he comes with a ton. I guess this is good enough time as any to talk about the ridiculous amount of blast effects that he comes with. So you have one of these big ones here with one of these smaller ones. You have some of these. I mean, these are kind of like what we usually see. I think Commander Class Jetfire had a bunch of these. So you have a ton of these blast effects, and the directions want you to take this off and pop these on, and they tell you to put like a ton of these on. I think they want me to put as many as this many on here and then peg this into this. But the problem is, because these are soft plastic and this is soft plastic, the weight does not hold up. So, I mean, they just immediately droop. So I definitely wouldn't display it like that. Maybe you could get away with one if you wanted to do one. Not too bad, but it's definitely, because they're all soft plastic, it definitely does not hold up. So I usually just stick with this. I think this looks fine, but I'm going to put his accessories off to the side, and probably not going to talk too much more about the blast effects, but you can see, I think it's, let's do a final count. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3 of these smaller ones. So 8 total blast effects. It is a ridiculous amount of blast effects, but I feel like they love to throw them into, you know, the Commander class price point just to, I guess, say they gave you a lot of accessories. Now, he does have 2 other swords, which you can probably tell, fairly well hidden here on the wings of Skysaurus. And you can take these off and he can dual wield these. And I think they look pretty good. I mean, they're definitely smaller swords, but I think he looks cool with them. I think they look great popped onto the wings. When you remove them, you have these kind of large peg holes, which I don't like the look of as much. But I think he looks cool with the 2 swords, and I think they integrate pretty well into the wings. So I do appreciate that. I feel like it makes sense for them to be there, and I like the look of that. So we'll attach this back on here. But overall, I mean, you know, the paint applications, you know, everything about this guy, he's definitely a nice size. Let me see, who do I have? Here is Leader Class Sandstorm. So you can see the obvious height discrepancy there. I believe I have Commander Class Ultra Magnus. You can see he's even a little taller than him. He's even taller than his shoulder pauldrons. So he's definitely got the height. I mean, he's definitely a Commander Class figure. I think the, you know, they didn't skimp out, which is nice on that. I appreciate that. But he is a hodgepodge of 3 dinosaurs. He is not perfect. He does have a lot of kibble going on here on the back. I don't mind the tail necessarily hanging out, and it can kind of, you know, move side to side, which is cool. But then you have like this kibble, this kibble. I understand that this has to go around and become part of the shoulder pad, but like, it looks wonky just hanging out there, I'll be honest. I think the back of the legs look good. I really like these pieces here that they put in to kind of make it look more like a robot leg than just the legs of the Tyrannosaurus, so I appreciate that. You do have just the head of that dino as a shoulder, and then you have these wings. So these wings are cool, and they have a lot of motion to them, but the problem is the head and this piece is all one piece. So while the head can turn from side to side, the wings are almost immediately hitting into that shoulder pad dino head. And so you can't really do much more than just kind of swivel it side to side there. Now you can try to kind of, you know, there's a hinge here so we can do front to back. There's also a swivel. So if you wanted to try to swivel this so that you could move it around a little bit more, there are different things you can do. You have a swivel there as well as another swivel here. So you can try, but for the most part, you're not going to get too much out of that head swivel because of his giant, you know, pterodactyl ears, we'll say, for lack of a better term. But I do think the head sculpt looks pretty good. Let me zoom in here on this. Really nice job there. I mean, the gold for the head crest, the eyes are a nice green color. Then you have that kind of sand green for the face. The gritted teeth is a nice touch with the kind of 2, I don't know if they're supposed to be fangs or spikes or whatever that is on the side of the cheeks there. But overall, I really like the head sculpt. I think that's cool. And I kind of like the idea of having all 3 of the dino heads, you know, here kind of in the chest area. And I don't even mind this as a shoulder pad. And you can move it around a little bit. But again, it's going to get in the way of those wings, and there's just not much you can do about it. Even with all the points of articulation that it has, with you have a hinge in and out. This hinge, you can also spin it. Of course, this has a hinge as well, so you can angle these out. But they're still going to get in the way there. The other thing I really like is that each of the dinosaurs has a Predacon crystal, or Destron crystal, whatever terminology you'd like to use. So you have a nice purple crystal there. I think the T-Rex, the T-Rex's one is here on the side of the weapon. And then I don't know where the Plesiosaurus's one is. I'm sure we'll find it as we transform this. Oh, here. His is here on the side of the arm. So I think that's cool. He's got the Predacon crystals all around, because I always thought those were cool. I thought that was a neat part of Beast Wars, having those crystals. Let's go over basic articulation. So we've covered this whole head area here. We have nice ratchet in the arm, front to back. Nice ratchet out to the side. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. It's hard to get it to move. They're very tight, which is good, but also kind of a pain. But you do have double jointed elbows there. You have a wrist swivel, as well as kind of a hinge here in the wrist, so it can go out to the side, and that will become apparent why later on. You can open the hands, so you have that ring there for the accessory, but then you can also like move the fingers as one set in and out, as well as his thumb, and that will also be used for the giant, what do I want to call it, dino combination, I guess, in the dino mode. Like, obviously the dinos are combined here for the robot mode, but they also have like an animal combined mode. And even though it's not featured on the packaging, it is included in the instructions. In the instructions. So that's good. I appreciate that. I don't know why they didn't show it on the box. Maybe they're not super proud of it. It is kind of wonky. We'll get there. But at least it is included in the instructions. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the arms. You kind of have a waist swivel, but it's not really usable all that much because there's just so much kibble in the way, but you can see that it can kind of move there. We talked about the tail can move side to side. Really nice ratchets here in the hips. So you can kick forward, kick a little far back, start to run into kibble there. Out to the side, really nice and far. Thigh swivel there. At least 90 degrees there in the knee. And then you have ankle tilt. Pretty sizable ankle tilt there. As well as, you can't really do the front to back. Like, there is a joint here. It's used more for the dyno mode. It's because this piece is, like, all of this is connected here, and that's keeping it as a leg. So it gives you a really nice knee. But you can't really have the ankle kick forward, but you can do the ankle tilt side to side. So you can stretch this out a little bit and then bring the ankle tilt in if you like. And I realize you can't see that, so let me show you here. But yeah, so you can tilt that pretty nice side to side. He also has these like small pieces in between the dino toes, I guess, to give him 5 toes in the front. It's weird. I think it's kind of unnecessary, but again, I don't know if that's a reference to the original toy. I'm not a huge fan of these skirt pieces. They don't get in the way as much as I originally thought they would. But I'm not a huge fan of them. But they hang there, and they're okay. So it's a really neat robot mode, and like I said, I appreciate how solid it is, because I was really worried it was not going to be connected all that well. And it's got a pretty good amount of articulation. It's just there's a lot of kibble. Now, I get it. It's 3 dinosaurs combining into one robot. Probably would be pretty difficult to do that without some amount of kibble. And from the front, it looks pretty clean. Like, if you're just looking at this thing from the front, you have the side skirts, which again, I don't love, but don't look terrible. And everything else about this looks pretty clean from the front. Like, the legs look really clean. The arms, you know, you do have the weird bat ears. I know it's a pterodactyl, but to me, it just looks like a bat ears. But, so you have that, but from the front, it looks pretty clean, honestly. When you get to the side, and certainly from the back, that's where all the kibble really comes into play. And I don't even really mind the tail. It's mostly all of this. But I guess it's not as bad as it could be, because, I mean, this is kind of clean. This is just some panels. It's really just the way that this snakes around. I wish that maybe we could have just like detached this and then pegged that on, and then this could have gone somewhere else, or maybe this could have been the sword or something like that. I don't know. I don't have the original toy to compare it to because it was a Japanese exclusive, and at this point is quite pricey. So it is nice that we're getting some version of this that's pretty accessible to us, because the original version of this guy certainly isn't, unless you have quite a sum of money at this point. But yeah, overall, I think the paint applications are good. I think the articulation is good. I think the front looks fantastic. Like I said, little kibbly from the side and the back, but could be worse. And then the accessories, I think, I mean, this thing is kind of so big, it's goofy, but it's a shield. I mean, it works. And honestly, I think this is fine. I don't have a problem with this. And like I said, even if you don't really like this big piece, you could always just take the blade off. And if you like a more simple look, he could just hold the blade like that. And even on its own, that's a decent enough size that I think it works for him to just use that if you don't like the look of the other piece. So yeah, overall, pretty solid robot mode. Let's go ahead and get into the interesting process that is taking him apart and transforming him into the 3 various dinosaurs. So I guess first off, we'll start with these pieces. There's not too much to do with these. You're going to kind of slide these back and then just rotate the fins back like that. Then you're going to open up these sections here. These little panels will just flip open like that, and then this will kind of come up and sit up around there for now, and then you can push this back down. This was the section that clipped onto the forearm, so push that back in. And then this is basically like the underbelly of Caesaurus. So we'll just put that off to the side as is. This piece is honestly the bane of my existence, and we'll see why a little bit later on. It forms this kind of weird diaper undercarriage section for the Tyrannosaurus, and it's just kind of a mess. So we're going to kind of stretch this out like this, and then you have to kind of push this down so that these pieces will kind of clear, because the way they have you tuck this in is kind of strange, and they have these super tiny little like tabs that we're going to utilize. So you have to push this down until they clear out, and then you can kind of pull this all the way down and kind of stretch this. You can see how this is going to go. It's going to be, again, like I said, the under area of the T-Rex. Then you're going to take this section and put this about here like this, and then this section can be put off to the side as well. I'm going to go ahead and remove the sword. The sword can store in the tail. I guess I'll do this now. It's kind of hard to see, but this clear tab is going to fit into a section. I think it's around here. And you'll just kind of pop this in. Now, I will say it's a real pain to get this to go in, and it's an even bigger pain to get this to come out. I think that's, we'll call it good enough. But that, you can store that sword in the T-Rex tail. So, we're going to start by kind of, and let me tilt this up so you can see. We're going to lift these up a little bit out of the way. We're going to unpeg. You can see the peg right there that this was pegged onto. And then you can kind of just bring this back. So this connects in a couple of places. So there is a connection right here where this kind of sand green meets the like gunmetal gray, and that is the same on both sides. And then also this section connects like right here, you can kind of see it right there, to the back of the like pterodactyl. So you have to kind of pop, and it can be hard to do, but you have to kind of pop that off. There you go. I got one side. And then let's get the other side. There we go. Okay, so this whole section comes off, and this is going to be the bulk of Caesaurus. Then we're going to take... This thing just kind of sits in here, I'll be quite honest. It doesn't connect as well as I'd like it to, but basically there's kind of like some tabs in here that I think are supposed to sit in this, but nothing really snaps. Like, I kind of wish, but maybe they didn't want it to snap because it'd be too hard to take it out later. But you can kind of see that tab recessed in there, and that I believe is supposed to sit in here. So it kind of, and then the, like, that kind of sits in there and becomes part of the chest. And these kind of peg on here. So you can see how they kind of have like a little tab right there that kind of sits in there. So again, I think my guess is that they didn't want it to be too tight of a connection, because otherwise how would you get it out of there? But my main problem with this whole thing is that when you're trying to peg something in, it's always like going inside a cavity, and so you have no visibility to see if it's lined up or if it's actually connecting or if anything's happening. So that part of it, in my opinion, is kind of annoying. We'll just go ahead and finish off Skysaurus real quick because there's almost nothing to do. You kind of just get the legs out of the way, straighten out the head, and then this whole section just goes up and covers the robot head. And you're pretty much done. So you can kind of just play with this, straighten this out however you'd like. Play with the feet. And then you can open up the mouth. I will say that the dino heads are really nicely done. I mean, the inside of the mouth is painted. The individual teeth are painted. The beak looks really great. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for him. Now, of course, he's got all the same wing articulation that we showed off earlier because it's the same pieces. You have a hinge here in kind of the middle of his neck, as well as like a ball joint here at the base of the skull. And then you have a ball joint here. You have a hinge here. You have a hinge here, as well as another hinge here. So he's definitely got a ton of articulation in his legs. But yeah, that's Skysaurus. So he's very, very simple. I'm just going to put him off to the side. We'll probably do this last. Let's go ahead. We'll put those pieces off to the side. So we'll get into Seasaurus here, which sounds like a seesaw. So basically what you're going to do, you want to kind of stretch this out. This is going to flip down like this. Kind of straighten this out. You want to put these pieces in and kind of rotate the arms out to the side. So those will click down like that. Then there is a tiny little tab right here, which is going to tab into this little section of the arm right here. Now, one thing I will say, when you're doing this the other way and you're trying to untransform it or transform it back into robot mode, remember about those tabs, because I kept trying to move the arms and I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh yeah, there's tabs. Don't break the tabs. So bring this down and peg that in there. Then you're going to rotate this so that the double jointed elbows are facing up, and then rotate the hand. I think the hand just goes down like that. And then you're going to utilize the double jointed elbows. And again, the top one does not like to move as much as the other one does. But this will come up. Where's the connection? There it is. So this little tab on the inside of the hand is going to tab in right there. So that comes in and sits like that. We're going to do the same thing over here. So you want to put the tab section facing the hinges. This will come down. This will come around. And then there is another little spot right there that this will come in and tab in like this. So let me just make sure this is lined up. I think the hand isn't quite rotated correctly. Okay, there we go. Then you can see how this piece kind of wiggles around a little bit. It's going to kind of lift up, and there's a slider. You can see that there's a track. This is going to slide like that. And then this is going to rotate, I think like this. You can tell because there's a cutout here, and then when this folds up, this has to rest in that little cutout area. So you can see how that nicely rests in that cutout like that. Then you're just going to fold these sections up like this. Then you're going to take this section from before, and you can see that there are two really large tabs, one on each side, and they are going to peg into these two spots right here and here. And then these panels are going to fill in these empty areas. So if you can really just get those two tabs, everything else will kind of just go with the flow. So bring this down, this will go, this will then snap onto that. And then this section here will come down and connect to these 3 points right there and really solidify that up. And there you go. There is your Seasaurus. At this point, you can kind of just utilize all of these joints to spin this around however you like. Again, I think the dino head looks pretty good. Inside of the mouth is painted, the teeth are painted, the eyes painted, and you have so many crazy points of articulation. So you have a hinge here, you have a swivel there, you can see it's a mushroom peg. Then you have a joint there as well as a swivel, so it's kind of like an elbow joint. Then here you have two mushroom pegs, one right there and there. You have another one of these joints down here where it's a swivel and a hinge. And it kind of just continues on like that. So it's two mushroom pegs, swivel ball joint, two mushroom pegs, swivel ball, not really a ball joint, but a hinge and a swivel, another mushroom peg, swivel and hinge joint. So it's crazy. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, there's at least 10 points of articulation in this neck. So they really got that covered. But there you go. I mean, technically, I guess you also have a little ball joint down here in the flipper. These can move around. I believe in this configuration they're supposed to stay down, but if you want to move them for some reason, that still slides. And these don't really move. I don't think these move at all, even though they look like they kind of do. No, they do. Okay, I was going to say. So these can kind of hinge side to side. Nothing too spectacular there. Whoops, this little panel popped out. Good enough. That's supposed to be in there, but it's a little too pushed in now. But there we go. That is the Nessie-looking Seasaurus. I guess it's supposed to be a plesiosaur, I think. Not 100%. I'm not the best on all my dinos, but I think it works. I mean, it's a bit of a shell former with that bottom piece, but he's kind of cool. Okay, so this guy can be kind of annoying, but not until towards the end. So with these two chest pieces here, they are actually going to detach. They're two separate pieces, and they will detach. You can see that there is a large peg right there that pegged in right there. So this one is also going to come down, and that's going to sit here for a moment. Just kind of leave them down like so. You're going to kind of push up the dino head like that. This little panel in here is going to flip up and out of the way. Then you're going to rotate just this section. So you have to make sure that these flaps are down far enough that it's not going to get in the way. And you don't want to move the bottom part. You want to move it right here where this piece meets this piece here. So this needs to rotate like this. But again, I think... no, that should be clear. Maybe not. What am I getting stuck on here? Do I need to pull this further away? Oh, you know what I need to do first? I think I need to detach this. So this should come up. No, that shouldn't matter. Does this have to go further down? I don't think so. Yeah, there we go. For whatever reason, I guess something was in the way. So there we go. Now we can rotate that. These pieces will hang down here, and then they'll actually, there's two hinges. You can see the pins right there and there. This will bend forward. Just be careful, though, because you want to make sure you're bending it at the hinge, and the hinge is pretty solid. It's very tight. So if you kind of pull on this with too much, like, you know, torque at the wrong spot, I worry that this could break. So just be very careful that you're utilizing that hinge and kind of really put the pressure at the hinge. But they will fold into each other and then peg together like that. This will come all the way down like that. And then this is, well, let's do the legs first. So this is going to disconnect. But then this will kind of hang out here. This part will flip up and hide completely inside the leg, which I think is kind of cool. You're going to fold this first part of the back heel into itself. You're going to take these pieces that were in between the toes that I still think are kind of dumb. They're going to fold into the foot, and then the rest of the heel will come in over top of it. So again, we're going to disconnect this and kind of rotate that in about that much. This is going to pop up and hide completely in the leg. Then we're going to fold these pieces underneath the foot like that. First part of the heel goes in, and then rest of the heel goes in. Then you're going to kind of bend this, and it will kind of connect. So there is, where is the heel piece? Here we go. So this little connection spot right there is going to peg in right there. Now, technically, you don't have to do this. I really don't think it matters, to be quite honest. I think it's just a way to make it look like, you know, the pistons are kind of connecting the parts of the dyno leg. And then you can bend this, so that kind of gives you like a nice shape for the dyno leg. So bring this up, and then that will, where is the connection? I think it's about there. Okay. Then you have these two pieces. So you can see there are a lot of pieces that will line up with this. So you can actually bring this up and slide this in, and that will connect all right there. Do the same thing over here. You have two peg spots and two pegs. So slide this up, and this will connect everything. And we'll pop this down. This should slide on like that. Okay, so this is starting to take shape. This is the part that I absolutely hate. And maybe I'm doing something wrong. It's very, very possible. I'm going to get the legs out of my way for this. And this piece is popping out. I might not have this lined up, quite honestly. I think it's supposed to be... It's very difficult to see in here. I think it's right there. There we go. Okay, that's in. So, you can see inside here, or maybe you can't. The lighting is hard to show it, but there's a cavity right there, and then there's a peg hole right there. And that is where these two pieces are supposed to go. But again, I have to kind of line this up without being able to really see where it's going. And it really doesn't seem to want to go in there. Like, trying to snap it in is really kind of a pain. And it doesn't want to stay. And then I'll get like the whole rest of the thing transformed, and then it'll pop out. And it's just really a nightmare. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it really doesn't... It's just there's no great way, and I'm probably not even showing this well, but there's no great way to really get that in there. Like, there's no great place I can push on it from. It doesn't seem to want to stay in there, and even when it's actually in there, it doesn't feel like it sits flush. I don't know. It's really a pain. I'm going to try to take care of it off camera. But that's got to connect in there, and it's just really... Maybe it's mine, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm doing something wrong. But trying to get this in here to a point where it feels like it's solid enough and it's not just going to fall off is really annoying. So let me take care of that. I'll see what I can do, and we'll come right back. Alright, I think it's in there. I really can't tell. We're going to have to just go with it. So this comes to here. This comes up, and there are two tiny little spots. Where are these? Oh, right here. So there's one, and there's one, and that's what these little tabs are going to go in. So this comes up and covers all of this. I think this is supposed to... Oh, I think this just fell out again. can't tell if this is, I think this goes like this. This comes up. We have to push this as far as it'll go. But if we can get this up here where this is supposed to go, and then this will peg in here, kind of. All right, I think that's good. And then this piece pushes down here, and that kind of gives you, so there's a lot of hollow area here, which does look weird. But then when you can finally, but see how this is still not really in? Like I really don't know what I'm doing wrong or why this won't connect properly or why. There we go. Okay. It's a whole thing. But this piece back here, I feel like the connection could have been so much easier, and I don't know why it was done this way. And that's my biggest complaint about this whole thing. Once you get it done, once it's in there, it's solid. Let me push this down. And then you kind of just bring the legs up to hide that gap. But yeah, it's such a pain. And then it wants to come apart. Like anytime I try to move the legs around, it wants to come apart. And it's really obnoxious. All right, I think we're good. I think that might stay together. We'll see. And then you just unpeg the dyno hands from the side of the body. But seriously, if someone knows a trick that I'm missing or I'm doing something wrong with that, please tell me, because like I said, once it's on there, it's solid. I mean, it's good. But oh, there's also a little piece of the neck in here that you have to bring down. The mouth doesn't open as much as I'd like, but they really did a nice job painting the teeth. And I think the eye looks great, and all that white all along the back I think looks really cool. So I like the look of this thing. And like I said, when I can get it together, it's solid and it's good. But man, getting that piece on there is such a pain. It is such a pain. I just don't know why they did it that way. I feel like any other connector, it could have just been a big peg. Why couldn't it have just been, instead of a weird square piece, you know, just make it a normal peg. Boom. Anyway, once you have it, it looks cool. And I can bring in the other two for our full set of dynos. So we have Landsaurus, Skysaurus, and Seasaurus. And again, I don't know if that's what they were actually called in Japan. They may have been called that. I don't know. But they look cool. I like it. I like having the three dinos together. I think it's a neat idea that you have three complete separate dinos. I mean, they have full complete dino forms. I mean, I'm not complaining about how any of the three of these look. Now, as far as the articulation, I didn't really go over the articulation. You have little ball joints for the hands. I'm not touching the legs at all because I've showed you what a pain it is to keep this guy together. But also, because of the way, like, obviously we've seen all the articulation in the leg, but because of the way it has to kind of connect, and they have this piece here connected, can't really utilize it. Like, you're pretty much just meant to do that and leave them there. I mean, technically you can still move the tail side to side, but that's about it. But he looks good. I love the purple. I love the white and the green eye, the silver for the toes and the teeth, and even the little tips of the hand claws are painted silver, which is a nice touch. So he looks good. I mean, and he feels solid. I mean, this thing has a weight and a heft to it. And once you can get that piece connected, I mean, he's solid. Like, I can move him or shake him. He's not coming apart, so that's good. This guy, I feel like, fairly solid. Tons of articulation in the neck. Don't really need him to do much else, let's be honest. He has the flippers, but not the selling point. And then, you know, the little pterodactyl, we went over him. He's got some great articulation as well. So it's definitely a trio of cool dinos. I'm here for it. And the color schemes are great. I love that. We can do the crazy trio mode of the dinos. The nice thing is we barely have to do anything to him. Most of the transformation takes place with him. So that's great. Let's get into it. All right, so all we have to do with this guy is lift up this panel, and put him off to the side. Then we're going to take our Seasaurus and we are going to detach him. Honestly, you're going to transform him almost completely back like you're connecting the robot mode. Let me disconnect this. So we take that off there, and then that will allow us to separate this section here. And it can be a little difficult. You might have to kind of get a nail in between these panels and give it a good disconnect. I guess I'll disconnect this section as well. Come along, tail. There we go. Okay. This section, you're going to flip this around and just push that in there. You can kind of push those down. Basically transform this back into the shield mode. And then you're just going to push these all the way in. And then you're going to flip this section out. So, yeah, basically just back into the shield mode. Put that off to the side. Then we are going to come here and we are going to flip these up. We are going to separate this so that we can tilt this up so that we can spin this. And then we need to push it back. And I did it backwards. There we go. Drop it in like this. You're going to disconnect, straighten out the arms. Like so. As I mentioned previously, don't forget about those tabs. So you can lift these up and disconnect the arms. Then we're going to take the hands and actually transform them into claws. And that is why you have that extra pin in the wrist, so that you can tilt that a little bit so that it situates about like that. So we are making the back legs of this crazy monstrosity. So we want to leave that. I think that's good, leaving that about there. Maybe we'll tilt this. Oh, you want to situate this like this so that you can kind of, you know, give it like a haunch to its back legs. And then we'll swivel this around like that. And then swivel this. Then you take these pieces here and these will swivel out. And then these will come up and kind of connect. So there is kind of a little tab right there. And that is going to connect into that little spot right there. So this will come up. Bring this up. And that will tab in there. And we'll do the same on the other side. So connect that in there. And then you're going to flip up this piece. And then leave this down because we're going to connect everything with these three pieces again later. But that is pretty much it. So kind of situate this, and you're kind of making like the back half of a monstrosity. So now you can see that there is a small piece, or these pieces here, that are jutting out, and they have like the tiniest little clip. And then there's a second set of like little clip spots right here. So this is going to clip onto this one. And I don't know if it's easier to slide it in or just push it down and clip it. I'm going to just push it down and clip it. And I really worry about breaking these clips, I got to be honest. Maybe would it be easier? No, I guess maybe clip it on one and then there we go. And then that other one will clip on down there. You can see it kind of resting right there in those clips. The coolest part, these two sections right here are going to flip up like this. And then this tab or peg is going to peg in up here. So this is the real thing keeping this together, because those little clips are just kind of a guide. So flip that around and then that'll peg in here. And you might have to kind of play with it a little bit. It's on a series of hinges. But that will peg in there. And then this, I guess you just let it hang down there. They don't really tell you what to do with that. Then you're going to take this and you're going to put this all back on top. So these pieces will peg back into here. This peg and clip will go right here. And then this is supposed to rest on here. Now, to be quite honest, I don't know if all of these things are going to line up. I think as long as you get the back sections the most, that's what's important. But everything else should kind of sit in there. And then we are able to put this back up and lock this on. I feel like this really does a good job of locking everything together. And then you have kind of the tail with the angry face. So there is most of the weird monstrosity. The last thing to do is to take this, and it wants you to kind of like pop the head like this, but also, so this tab is going to peg in to this section here that honestly looks like an outlet. The bottom part of that, so that kind of, and I guess I should situate this. I think we have to rotate these, actually. These get rotated, and then you can hinge them up and just kind of kick the feet forward. So this comes in and pegs onto that, and then the head kind of rests in here. And if you want, you can put the head all the way down. It will kind of fit into that cavity. And then this just kind of closes up on this. There we go. I think that clicked in. So, like I said, if you want, it is made to have the head sit all the way down like that. But also, I guess if you want all the heads to be facing forward, they tell you you can do this. And then just kind of do what you want with the wings. So here you go. Here is your weird animal monstrosity thing. I mean, it's here. It's weird. It's fairly solid, honestly. I'm surprised at how solid it is. Like I said, having these pieces come up here and peg in was genius. And then, of course, sandwiching it together and have this piece, you know, connect up, that also helps. But it's weird. It's definitely weird. But it is here. And, you know, I guess you could push these up, or if you really wanted, you could push these out to the side. Whatever you prefer. It is a weird dino monstrosity. So at the end of the day, I like Magmatron. I like the robot mode. I think it looks really cool. You have this crazy combination of the three dinos. You have the three dino heads. You know, 2 shoulder pads and the chest plate. I think that all looks great. The head sculpt's good. The paint applications are fantastic. The articulation in robot mode is fantastic. And from the front, he looks really good and clean. And then you kind of get to the side and the back. And it's not terrible, honestly. This whole thing is weird, but kind of needs to be that way. I don't mind the tail here on the back. I like these like pistons for the back of the calves. I think that's all kind of cool. So all in all, I think the robot mode is probably the most solid of the modes. I like the 3 individual dinos. I just don't really like transforming from one to the other. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. So if you're going to grab this and put it on your shelf as Magmatron, and I think he looks great. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. And also, it's just really cool that they're giving us this Japanese exclusive character that, you know, didn't get a lot of attention over here. The original toy is crazy expensive now, and so it's kind of a deep dive. I mean, not the deepest of dives, but it's a fairly deep dive giving us this character, and I think it's really cool that they decided to do that and made a version of this character accessible to us for a reasonable price. So that's cool. I love all that. And like I said, I think the robot mode looks cool. And I do really like the individual dinos. It's just I have such trouble with this piece here, connecting it into the dinosaur like undercarriage area. I wish that just was an easier connection. Once I can finally get it in there, it's fairly solid. And the 3 individual dinos look fantastic, but it's just not that much fun. I will say it's easier going from dino to robot mode because the connections are a lot easier. So I don't mind transforming as much from dino mode to robot mode, but going backwards is kind of annoying. As far as the 3 dino combination mode, it's a thing the original toy could do, so I appreciate that they included it here. Feels a little bit like an afterthought, but again, it's not the primary mode, and I wonder if it was kind of an afterthought, and that's why it didn't make it to the packaging. just a guess. But honestly, it's nice that they found a way to do it because the original toy could do it. I'm probably not going to utilize it very often. Honestly, if I'm displaying this, it's more than likely going to be in robot mode. Maybe every once in a while I switch it up to the 3 dinos. I can't see myself ever really going back to that 3 dino combination. But I appreciate that they made it work since it was something the original toy could do. But it's really goofy. But then again, you know, just the concept of 3 dinos in dino mode combining together is inherently goofy. So I guess it fits. I don't know. In any case, should you pick this up? It really depends on how much you like this character, know about this character, care about Beast Wars Neo. As a figure, I think it's a good toy. I think the robot mode is solid. Like I said, I was really worried that combining 3 of these together was going to make it flimsy. It's not flimsy. I mean, I'm shaking it. It's nice and solid. It's got great ratchets. The articulation's good. The paint applications. I am a little bummed that, you know, you can't swivel the head around as much as I'd like. I kind of wish this piece was like, you know, further behind his head and the head was in front and you could swivel that. I'm not a huge fan of these skirt pieces, but they don't really get in the way as much as I thought they would. So I think it's a good, solid figure in robot mode. I think the 3 dino modes are good, solid dino modes. Honestly, the 3 dino combo was even pretty solid. It looks goofy as heck, but it was pretty solid. So I can't fault them at all for giving us, you know, 3 solid modes for this toy that really hold together once you can. Now, like I said, I have a lot of difficulty with this piece getting it into the dino mode. But once it finally snaps in, it's solid. So that's good. It's just, I guess what it really comes down to is I love all the different modes. Transforming it is more annoying than it is fun. So take that for what you will. If you're someone who doesn't know who this character is and doesn't really care about this character at all, and you don't feel like shelling out the Commander class price point, I totally get that. If you know, are excited to get a figure of a character you've never heard of before, I don't think you'll be disappointed because, like I said, I think it's solid. Just have that grain of salt going into it that the transformations can be kind of annoying, but when you get to where you're going, it's a good place. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.